it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Wednesday, October 19th. So we are going to have the moon in Leo all day. And with the moon in Leo, we are definitely aligned with our heart space. We are trying to be playful, trying to raise the vibe. We are definitely putting ourselves out there in a different way than we normally would have. Semi-attention seeking, but mostly because we have a lot to say, we have a lot to share. We've been very kind of cramped up in our inner realms for a very long time, and we're definitely down to be a little bit more expressive than we've been in quite some time. Now, let me just say that today is going to have a little bit of a heavier funk to it for other reasons, but it is absolutely necessary that we dive into this particular energy because we are going to reveal a lot about ourselves, a lot about our wants, needs, and desires, a lot about what it is that our heart wants, mostly through conflict. Now, with the moon in Leo, we really have to be reliant on listening to our heart space. So even as we move through some of the lower energies, some of the tougher energies, listening to your heart space is the key. Now that's the key always, but with some of the aspects coming at us here today, it is going to be highly important to not let our ego get the best of us and to constantly check in with your heart chakra. Now, if you haven't listened to this week's Ascension forecast, you should probably do that. We did talk about how the heart chakra was definitely on tap this week in the spotlight. We have some refinement to do. We do have to be kind of cracked open and pull the layers back in order for us to get raw and vulnerable and honest with what it is that's going on with ourselves, with our lives, with our dreams and visions. And today is a prime example of that. Now, there are 13 different aspects here today, which is a semi-busy day in the cosmos, if I do say so myself. 10 of these aspects are going to involve the moon in Leo. Now, today is a seesaw day. There are going to be ups and downs and everything in the middle, everything in between. Keep in mind, we are still in Libra season. We are trying to wrap Libra season up. And the whole point is to leave Libra season with the scales in balance. But of course, we've been exploring those extremes, the polarization, that duality in life, which has definitely had those scales out of whack. And we are definitely going to see where those scales go up and down, where they meet in the middle, and where they are very, very much on different sides of the goalpost here today. We start off on a good note. We have the moon sextiling with Mercury. This is our heart space. This is our head space. On the same page, in alignment. This is good. We're making progress, especially seeing how Mercury being in Libran energy is typically very indecisive. We're listening to that heart space. And by listening to that heart space and tapping into the strength and the pride of the lion, we are definitely listening to our heart space in a lot more of a very, I'm going to say, roaring and loud way. Our heart space is very loud, kind of trumping the indecisiveness, the questionable, the insecurities, the doubts that our mental plane is currently experiencing. But we're on the same page. So some of the ideas, some of the thoughts that we've been having, that we've been back and forth about and up and down about and everything in between, we are kind of solidifying a little bit more today because we're listening to this heart space. Also, the moon sextiling Mercury in this way could put us in a position where we need to communicate our thoughts and our feelings to those that need to hear it. Keep in mind, we are speaking from the heart. This is very raw, very in your face, very truthful, very vulnerable, very much in touch with our heart chakra. Of course, Mercury rules over communication. Because Mercury is in Libra, we're very, I'm going to say, middle grounded when it comes to how it is that we're speaking. We don't want to offend anybody. We're trying to keep it light and fluffy, even though we are speaking from our heart space. And we're just kind of looking to be a little bit more expressive, to get our inner realm into the outer realm. The moon is going to make a positive aspect with Venus, who rules over the heart chakra. Venus, the number one reason why we're having heart chakra activations because she is in her place of power in Libran energy. She is wrapping up her time in her place of power here this week before she dives into Scorpio season, but we're not going to get ahead of ourselves just yet. Our emotions and our values, our wants, needs, and desires are being awakened within us. Of course, the moon being in Leo is opening up our heart space for us to get raw and vulnerable and honest with ourselves. Venus, she's working on her self-worth. She's working on her self-confidence. She's working on her self-esteem because she realizes that a lot of the problems that she's facing in her personal relationships are a lack of the value, a lack of the worth, a lack of the boundaries that she herself has failed to implement. May I remind you, people treat you the way that you have taught them that they can get away with. And right now, we're definitely trying to figure out what is important, what do we value, what is worthy of our time, love, and attention. Yes, Venus being in Libran energy in her place of power does want to be in love with love. But we've had to sort out what that actually means for us as she's been moving through the different degrees of Libra. And of course, we're in Libra season. So our whole goal is to find balance, to find peace, to find love, to find harmony, to find happiness, to find joy. But man, has it ever been a ride in order to actually get there. So we're aligning with what it is that our heart wants, not our ego, our heart. And that's a big difference. Many of us caught up in the ego trap, wanting to push and push and push and fight to keep a hold of relationships that we know are not meant for us, but we want them to be for us. And of course, that is an ego situation. We would not be listening to our heart space in that particular instance. And again, there's a huge awakening of the heart chakra. And this little interaction with Venus, especially after we just got our heart and our head on the same page and are communicating and expressing ourselves in the way that we should from our heart space, being raw and open and vulnerable, you best believe that we're about to make a huge amount of progress in defining what it is that we want, need, and desire in our personal relationships, what it is that we need to do in order to create stability within ourselves, within our relationships, and what it is that we need to be actively pursuing in order to kind of fill the voids that we've identified that aren't feeling so happy, aren't feeling so joyful, aren't feeling the kind of pleasure that we were hoping for. Now, just as we take one big step forward, those dark force energies are going to kick in and try to drag us on back. The moon in Leo squares, gets in the boxing ring with the true node, who is in Taurus energy. The true node is our soul's path, our destiny's point, trying to get us on the right path in order to pursue our new passion, our new dreams, our new vision, our new goals, our new meaning, our new purpose. But let me tell you, we are a little bit cluster-effed on what that actually means. What steps do we have to make in order to bridge the gap from where it is that we're at to where it is that we desire to be? We don't know. We're a little bit confused about that. And right now, this is a lot of questioning. Now, we would have just identified and made some very important progress in identifying what it is that we want, need, and desire in our lives. Now we actually have to come up with a realistic plan on how it is that we're going to manipulate and maneuver some aspects in our lives in order to actually get us on the path where we can actually pursue that. But right now, we don't know what that looks like. So our heart space, our emotions, our intuition is getting in the boxing ring with this energy that's trying to pull us into the future. And we're confused and we're overwhelmed. And again, Moon in Leo, a little bit dramatic. We are definitely overly emotional, overly confused, overly, I'm going to say, agitated because we don't know how to actually make what it is that we've identified that we want come true. So that's a little bit of a cluster-F. Now, it's not going to last too long. And grateful, we have the moon trining Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer who's retrograde in Aries energy. This is fire on fire. And what does fire do? Well, fire burns down and cuts the cords with the things, the blockages, the restrictions that are holding us back and fogging up our mind and cluster effing our emotions, and then creates the spark that we need to be excited, to be passionate, to be driven enough to actually pursue what it is that's coming to life within us. So the moon trining Chiron, this is a huge amount of healing, a huge amount of growth that we are making in our inner realm on identifying what it is that we want and not allowing our ego to get in the way of our dreams, not allowing the ego to talk us out of what other people may think of us if we abandon our roles, our responsibilities, our commitments, and pursued a new path that we're now passionate about and that we now desire. Now, this is definitely going to be the pep in our step, the renewal in our spirit that we absolutely need. We are feeling a little bit lighter than we have in a very long time, and that energy is going to be amplified when the moon goes ahead and makes a very positive aspect with the sun. So anytime we have the moon and the sun interacting with each other, the moon is our emotions, our unconscious self, our intuition. It is very attached to the past. The sun is our life force energy, shining a bright light on what it is that we want, what it is we need, what it is we desire, what it is we have to embody in order to actually get said result. So anytime that the moon and the sun are coming together, it's like an overlap between the past and the future. And what we're left with is ourselves, raw and vulnerable, listening to our heart space here in the present moment, making a choice on what it is we want to do. Do we want to stick with the same old, and just settle in our heart space as this is as good as it's going to get? Or are we willing to bust out of our comfort zone and actually fight for a new reality? So this particular interaction is going to jazz us up. This is the moon in Leo, fire energy, with the sun in Libra, air energy. And a lot of beautiful things can happen when we balance the fire energy with the air energy. It is infusing the passion, the spark, the desire with the ideas, the logic, the practicality, the planning that we need to actually tap into in order to bring some of these passions and desires to life. This is where things get awkward. The moon goes ahead and bumps into Jupiter in not the most comfortable way. And now we're having a problem with the big picture. Now, many of us feel like we shouldn't take any kind of action until we have the big picture finalized. And you know what? For the most part, we need to have a vague, big picture, goal, dream, vision in order for us to be able to break it down into small, manageable pieces so that we know what we need to focus on in the here and now to actually contribute and start building towards this great, big, grand vision that is exciting for us. The problem is that many of us use that as an excuse. We don't know what we want. We don't know what we need. We don't know what we desire. And sometimes focusing on the great big vision, the great big dream is scary. So right now, with the moon interacting with Jupiter in this way, we're really kind of bringing up the blockages. What is blocking our plan, our path? What is blocking our growth? Where is it that we're afraid to make improvements? Where is it that we do not believe or have confidence in ourselves to be able to accomplish this? Where is it that, you know what, we kind of bit off more than we can chew? Maybe we created and concocted a dream and a vision so big that it's unrealistic. And now we're kind of tapping into the shadow elements of the Leo energy. So now we're not this, big, proud lion ready to roar and take control over the jungle. We're kind of like morphing into this little scared little kitten who just wants to retreat and curl up into a ball and really just not even deal with life. And Jupiter, being a magnifier, tends to turn the volume all the way up on whatever it is that we're thinking and feeling. And right now, we're not embodying the positive qualities and characteristics of the energy at play. So we're melting. We are, we're not as hopeful. We're not as confident as we were earlier in the day. Again, this is the up and down seesaw effect. And when we reach a high, we have to expect that there's some kind of low shortly to follow. Now, things are going to get super freaking intense here for a little bit because we have the sun in Libran energy squaring, getting into the boxing ring with Pluto, the great transformer, the god of the underworld, who is just coming out of its retrograde slumber, still barely even moving because it's a slow moving planet anyways, but we are very direct. Now, what do we get when the sun and Pluto get into the boxing ring with one another? Well, we get a heaviness, we get a weight. Why? Because we're a little bit paranoid. We're a little bit, I'm going to say obsessive with some of the thoughts. We may be kind of wavering in the shadow elements and coming up with all the ifs, ands, and buts of why we shouldn't be bold and brave to put ourselves out there, why we shouldn't concoct this great big dream and vision for ourselves. We tend to get a little bit paranoid that things aren't going to work out. We may become obsessed with a certain way of thinking. That deep, dark inner narrative comes out, reminds us of, how awful it's going to be to fail, or how disappointed people are going to be in us, or how much it's going to suck to, brag about, all of these dreams that you have and then not have the energy to actually pursue them, and how embarrassing that could be. It is a trigger, an activation to the shadow parts of our doubts, of our insecurities, of our fear. And the fear that's coming up is kind of strange because we almost are afraid of losing the dream, losing the confidence, losing the vision, losing the goal, losing the spark, the excitement, the happiness, the joy that, we really get when we align with the vision that our heart space is trying to push us into pursuing. So everything's kind of intense. That's what Pluto does. He intensifies everything, but in a heavy, weighted, dark kind of way. And keep in mind that the magic with Plutonian energy is to take us on a bad trip, to take us down that dark road, to remind us of our shadow elements, because that's how we boss up. We turn that pain into power. We turn that darkness into light. We take every situation that we have ever been in that didn't work out for us, and instead of allowing that to paralyze us, we should be using that to inspire us and motivate us and set us up to be hell-bent and determined to step into a brand new level of power and authority in our lives and just take control, just push ourselves forward, even if we're afraid to push ourselves through the fear. So the intensity that comes is really weighing on us and adds a little bit of awkwardness to our interactions. Because again, we're paranoid. We think, everybody's out to get us, or everybody's going to laugh at us or think that we're ridiculous, or whatever the case may be. That's the shadow element coming up within you. So it's hard to say on, what the shadow elements are that are going to be triggered and activated in you, but they're definitely on the darker realm of emotion. We are kind of feeling like we are not on the same page with people. We are feeling like we are alone in the world, like it's us against the world. We are kind of at odds with, I'm going to say, our day-to-day goals versus our big dream, big vision goal. I would say that we are obsessed and paranoid about our relationships, about our money matters, about our status, about the way that people are going to look at us. I would say that there are other things happening in the world right now that we should be caring about that we don't care about because we're kind of stuck into our own inner realm of events, of trauma, of pain, of worry, of fear, of just all of these negative emotions. And we're losing faith. Why? Because we're essentially speaking fear into the dreams that we were just excited about. Now, let me just say that we do have to sit in this funk in order to build ourselves up in a better way. Again, there is a certain amount of tearing ourselves down that are needed in order for us to shake our heads and build ourselves back up in a much better and stronger way. This is how we discover our inner power. This is how we get in control of ourselves and the details in our lives. This is how we kind of give ourselves an energy check. This is how we figure out what it is that we want to do versus what it is we feel like we have to do. This is how we determined who in our lives actually feels safe and supported and encouraged. We're learning a lot from the funk. And we are learning a lot on what it is that our fears actually are. And once we can identify what it is we actually fear, we can do a lot with that. This is like an inner psychological mind F that we're doing to ourselves. And that's okay. It's kind of needed at this particular point. But we need to become obsessed with something. We need to dig deep. We need to question everything. We need to sit in the funk in order for us to realize what it is that we need to realize that we wouldn't have realized if everything was going good and the light was shining down upon us and everything was hunky-dory and we felt good about, our dreams and our relationships and our lives. We wouldn't have aha moments. We wouldn't create change if that was the state that we were in all the time. So we do have to kind of let ourselves creep into the darkness in order to sit in that darkness, sit in that funk, see what comes up for us. Because I can tell you damn well, there's going to be some epiphanies that are going to be game changers. And we are definitely going to pull ourselves out of this funk very quickly. And we are going to have a heightened sense of empowerment because of it. So we get a lot of help after this little funk that we sit in for close to 3 hours, when the moon goes ahead and bumps into Neptune. This is like the light at the end of that dark tunnel that we've been sitting in. This is like us getting real with our heart space, asking ourselves, do we really believe some of the things that we just told ourselves? Do we really believe that we're incapable of greatness, of being happy, of deserving of happiness and joy and pleasure? The Neptune energy is our higher self, our soul self, our intuition, our dreams, our creativity. And of course, that moon in Leo is ready to bounce back and embody the positive qualities and characteristics of this Leo energy. So now we are this proud, roaring lion. Once again, we are bossing up. We are aligning with our higher selves. We are talking ourselves up. We are dragging ourselves out of this dark pit, this dark hole. And just when we are inspired and motivated and ready to just, cut the cord with that negative narrative that we just sat in, we have the moon entering into the boxing ring with Uranus. What does this mean? Well, it means that suddenly our emotions are a little bit overwhelming and our inner realm feels a little bit crazy and chaotic. Why? Because we just talked ourselves into making some very big, bold moves, some very dramatic changes and shifts, not only within ourselves, but we're plotting the plan, the strategy to apply to our exterior realm. And what happens when we take a big step forward? That's right. Those dark force energies want to push us that step back. Why? Because they don't want us to move ahead. They don't want us to grow. They don't want us to enlighten ourselves. They don't want any kind of amount of awareness. They want us to be paralyzed in a state of fear where we just stick with the same old, play small, dim our light, not pursue our passions or our desires, and basically settle. Okay? So the moon entering into the boxing ring here with Uranus is going to make us feel a little bit cray-cray inside. That's okay, because now we're a little bit anxious about, just declaring these big, bold goals and dreams that we are pretty loud about pursuing at this point. But now we don't know how we're going to do it. We don't know how we're going to get there. And now we kind of feel like we are dancing to the beat of our own drum, like we're on this solo mission. And although, there's a lot of empowerment that comes with being on a solo mission right now, those dark force energies are trying to make us feel like the weirdos. Why would you want to go off and on the unbeaten path? Why would you want to go dance in unfamiliar territory? Why would you put yourself out there in a space where you don't know what's awaiting you, what could be coming for you, where things are going to go wrong? Right? There's all of these doubts, all of these insecurities. And with Uranus, who most of the time is trying to wake us up and open up our mind and throw a wrench into our plans in order to get us out of our comfort zones. Right now, we're kind of clamming up. We're a little bit rigid. We're a little bit closed-minded. We aren't thinking as bold and brave and visionary as we normally would with this particular aspect. Then the moon is going to go ahead and oppose, sit across from Saturn, the Lord of Karma, who rules over roles and responsibilities and systems and foundations, who is retrograde in Aquarian energy. So let's just take a moment and just understand that Saturn always brings us down a couple of pegs. Saturn yeah, can be a little bit of a negative Nancy, but for good reason, because we have to be realistic, especially when it comes to the new elements that we're bringing to life, the new foundations that we're looking to build. We are in a rebuilding stage, a restructuring stage of our lives. We are bossing up to new roles and responsibilities of karmic chapters that we are just about to enter into. But here's the thing. We're sitting across the table, so there's a little bit of intensity here. We're a little bit on edge. Emotionally speaking, in Leo energy, we are proud to be weird. We are proud to be unique. We know that we have to really embody our own individual wants, needs, and desires in order to help ourselves. And we know that in order for us to want to help other people, we have to be our best selves. And Saturn over there retrograde in Aquarius energy for the last 5.5 months has been showing us where it is that we have abandoned our Leo energy in order to do what we thought was expected of us by other people, what we thought other people wanted us to do, what we thought would make other people happy. And again, where has that gotten us? Because the lesson here is that boundaries are needed. Yes, you can still do right by others, but still kind of push and advocate for your own wants, needs, and desires. You can still stand in your own unique individual skills and talents and contribute to the rest of the world. There is a balance that needs to be kind of evened out here. And it's no joke that we're in Libra season talking about where that balance should be. So with this particular energy, yeah, we are kind of being brought down a couple of pegs, but that's okay. The lion got a little bit excited. You know, he's over here doing the whole Lion King scene of, you know, just roaring and reminding the members of the jungle who the boss is. And then all of a sudden you get the monkey, the elder monkey. I can't even remember his name. My bad. But you get that amount of wisdom coming in and saying, okay, young lion, you just declared a lot of promises to the jungle. Now you're going to have to make good on it. Where are you going to start? Okay. Yeah, I know you're on your own mission in order to be the best king of the land, but you have people, you have roles, you have responsibilities to these peoples, this member of the jungle. How are you going to do right and pursue your own dreams by still doing right by your community? And that's basically what we're facing with this particular aspect. Now, Mercury is going to bump into the true node in such a way that would suggest that there is a situation popping off in our exterior realm that's bringing in a new perspective, new information, new details that will ultimately help us plan or change the plans to the path that we just kind of identified that we are ready to take action and move upon. Now, this isn't a bad thing. This is a learning opportunity. This is an opportunity for growth as long as we don't react to the information and we take a minute to align with our higher selves to respond in a way that is going to be beneficial for ourselves, for those involved. And again, with Mercury being in Libra energy, we're always riding more on the indecisive side than anything else. We are always kind of wanting to stay in the shallow end of not getting too deep in our thoughts and too deep in exploring some of the conversations that are needed and need to be had. But at this particular juncture, I feel like whether the information is good or bad, whether the perspective shift is good or bad, it is contributing to the overall plan and strategy that we are currently trying to formulate, which means that if there is information that comes in that startles you, that is bad, that you're just disgusted with, well, obviously we aren't including those people in our plans. Obviously, we're not going to make any time or effort or put any energy into, allowing that chaos to be part of our lives. And, on the other side of the coin, if it's good vibes, good energy, well, it's just a validation. And just remember that every single time you receive a single piece of validation or confirmation from the universe, that you should give a little shout out to the sky daddy up there and just thank them for that little bit of clarity. Now, Mercury is going to sit across from, oppose, conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer. Now, Mercury and Chiron Mercury is in Libran energy. Chiron is retrograde in Aries energy. Chiron is very consumed about ourselves, our identity, what we're going to look like, what are people going to think of us if we go ahead and we just kind of like stray off the path of, doing what everybody else is doing, and what that may mean for us. Mercury, on the other hand, is trying to strategize how everyone can be happy. But this particular interaction is illuminating the shadow realm of both aspects. What is the shadow realm of both aspects? Well, uncertainty, insecurity. We are kind of filtering, I'm going to say, feedback or information coming in as an attack, as maybe judgment or criticism. We're looking at everything from the filter of upsetting people or people trying to upset us. We are misinterpreting a lot of the signs, a lot of the symbols that we're receiving from the universe at this time. We are also misrepresenting ourselves, what it is that we want, what it is that we need, what it is that we desire. A good example of this is when you're extremely bothered by something and somebody says, I know this probably upset you and I'm really sorry about that, and you smile and you say, oh, no, that's fine. I'm not bothered. Well, okay, now you're a liar, right? Because we wear this mask of wanting everybody to think that we're all right, even when we're not. We wear this people-pleasing mask in Libra season. And right now we have some wounds. We have some triggers being activated within us. And, what we're doing is we're interpreting it as an attack. And this creates a space in between us and our personal relationships. It is also kind of emphasizing where it is that we feel weak and vulnerable instead of, being empowered and building ourselves up. And honestly, we're feeding too much we're reading too much into things. We're feeding too much into it. We are making it a much bigger deal than it actually needs to be. And again, the scales are very out of balance with this particular energy. Now, lastly, we're going to wrap up the day with some very interesting energies here. The moon is going to interact with Neptune, the ruler of dreams, just as we are heading to bed. The majority of us are heading to bed anyways. And emotionally speaking, we're a little bit overwhelmed. We're a little bit in a kerfuffle. We are overstimulated. We don't know what to think, what to feel. We don't know if we are crazy for, wanting to pursue a new passion, a new dream, a new vision. We are, again, kind of feeding off of this Mercury opposition with Chiron. So we are kind of in the negative narrative. And we are now a little bit down on ourselves. We don't have the hope. We don't have the faith. We don't have the inspiration. We're just a little bit blah, a little bit of in a funk. And, heading to bed and heading into a dream state in this way, as some of the wounds and insecurities and doubts and fears got opened up right before we move into that dream state, we can almost expect a little bit of a dark sense of a dream. But what I will say is that our dreams are very revealing on what is going on in our unconscious selves. And because we are kind of going to bed on this negative tone, I would say that we could definitely see a lot of our fears and insecurities play out on the dreamscape. We could learn a lot from it. So I want you to pay attention to your dreams as you kind of float away into the slumber. Just kind of ask your guides and ask the universe to be a little bit more defining, a little bit more clear, a little bit more revealing, if you will, on what it is that you actually need to work on as far as your emotions and your mental plane goes, and to reveal that to you in a dream state.